Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of Beyond the Label podcast. So, today I have with me Marianne. She is all the way from Canada and she's a transformational life coach and Ayurvedic health counselor. So, hi, Marianne. So happy to have you with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, do you just want to tell us what is being a transformational life coach and are you health counselor? I think some of us are not so familiar with those terms.
Yes, so a transformational life coach, I would describe it as a life coach that create transformations. And so my goal in my job is to help people really transform their lives like they have always dreamt of before, and never been supported to do so in the best ways possible. Um, and Ayurvedic health counselor is health coach that practice Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is a traditional Indian medicine from India that is pretty old. It's traditional, and so it really helps us understand our bodies or our body, and with lifestyle and diet and herb recommendations, we can get back to balance. It's something I discovered a few years ago, and I've been really interested by it. And nobody in my area was doing it, so I'm like, let's just learn and apply that. And I use it to really help our bodies and our mind, like coaching and Ayurveda. I combine them together so that our our whole system gets to balance and happiness.
I love that so much. Well, I just want to know from the beginning, like what sparks you to go on this journey? Especially you said you're the only one in your area doing the like promoting and like coaching about Ayurvedic health. So like yeah, like from the very beginning, like can you share more about like the beginning of this journey for you?
Yes. So my story is actually it was pretty nice and quiet until my 20s, and I'm in my 30s now, mid 30s. And late 20s, my whole life changed. I had to quit my job. I left my partner at the time. My favorite grandfather died, and my parents separated, and it was a very um, ugly moment that was actually triggered by me because I'm like, people, you need to do something. And so it was a really tough moment. And through that, my family had been like really, cocooning and like really close to each other. And at that point, everybody kind of exploded. And it was time for me to really realize that I had something else to do in life. And so that's how I moved from France, where I'm originally from, to Canada. And during 2 years, I really traveled and tried many things, and arrived in the community I am at right now, which is Nelson in British Columbia. Um, and here, it's actually a beautiful place to heal and to really understand yourself. And so after having been through a few relationships and noticed like some patterns that were repeating, I'm like, this needs to stop. And so in 2020, um, or 2021, I discovered a book that was called Discover Your Dharma from Sahara Rose. And Sahara is also known to use Ayurveda. And a few months later, she created a school, and that's how I trained as a life coach. Because I really love the principle, and I'm like, I need to talk about this. I need to learn more about this. And for sure, through that, I figured out my life purpose, and I'm like, ooh, I like this. More people need to know about this.
That's amazing. And I personally, I also tried like Ayurvedic like methods. I used to also have an Ayurvedic coach in Hong Kong, but then she moved away to Portugal. But I mean, this is like not like a health class for anybody, but just to put it out there that it's like an alternative medicine that everyone can just like look into and like consider and see if it's right for you. And I really want to ask, so back to what you said at the beginning about how there was a time when your life just kind of like exploded when everything like happened. And I actually know that from our past like email exchanges that you talk about that you like helped your clients to like cut ties from their families to create like the life that they want to away from like past traumas and like experiences, and it's okay to basically like lift up the responsibility of having to always be there for your family even if they're like really toxic. At least that's what I'm getting from like our past conversations. So I'm so curious in that because as like an Asian, like coming from like a very conservative Asian background, I relate so much that family can be such a toxic thing. And it's not that you're like a bad person or you're being like irresponsible, but sometimes it's really necessary for your own mental health, like physical health and your future to cut ties and to, create some very strong boundaries. So can you tell us more about like why you decided to specifically work with your clients on this and like just your personal experience with how do you overcome that?
Yeah, definitely. And so I like the redirect. It's a great question. And one thing I want to say is that oftentimes we use the word toxic when our environment is really complicated and like we are overwhelmed by it and we cannot handle it. And in some clients histories or clients' families, their family is really like not welcoming, and so I definitely do deal with that. For my own family, if anybody is listening, it's not exactly toxic, and so it's more about being yourself, and I do believe that you know in the world today, with everything that's happening, um, a lot of us are called to live a different life than what we have been taught or raised for. And that will create a huge shift in our family that will be very, very hard to handle for everybody. And at first, it may start with a big fight. Like, I don't want to be here, just leave me alone, right? And cutting ties, like definitely. But I do have some clients that fight very hard not to cut ties because the whole motivation in there is that there is a lot of love. It's just not aimed the right way, or understood the right way. And so um to me it definitely worked into like I'm done, I don't want to be here. But then I was heartbroken because I was motivated by reconnecting in a healthy way. I just wanted to be heard, and in my family there was a lot of like pressure, of like, you need to do this, you need to do that, and like you cannot do that to like your mom, you cannot do that to your grandmother, like you're gonna kill them if you leave. And I'm like, no way. Like, come on, I can handle this. And so there was that guilt is a very, very common feeling with all my clients and my story. And it's really hard to learn how to be yourself when you have been the caretaker or like the emotional caregiver of your family. And so there is that like, commonalities in all my clients and my story of like always giving more and more without knowing actually what you really need. And so that was the whole learning process of understanding actually that, they are them, I am me. And that's what I teach my clients. It's like, they are them, you are you. Just let's stay there. And so at first, like we develop techniques to like really soothe ourselves and come back to a place of quiet and peace, and where we can take care of ourselves and we're not like always triggered by them. And then after that, we build self-esteem. And in there, I include boundaries, boundary setting of like being able to know what it is that you want and what it is that is theirs and theirs to take care of, and your own to take care of. And really build that like trust in yourself, in your intuition, and we follow that with self-love, where you actually give yourself what you need. You don't expect your family or your parents, your siblings sometimes to give you what they should give you. You know that you are full on your own. And then after that, we had the layer of self-fulfillment, and that's the self method. And the self-fulfillment is finding your life purpose. And when you have your life purpose, that mission that you are meant to, accomplish on this planet, um, you have really a huge self-confidence, and you have always something to come back to when your relationship with your family become really tricky. And yeah, by developing that and using all of this, the whole dynamic changes. And what you have been meant to do, which is break the cycle, teach your family that no, like this is not it anymore. But that doesn't mean I don't love you, It just means that I'm gonna love you a different way, and my life is not gonna be exactly what you expect me to do, And usually, because there is all that love that is flowing, and much better this way, like you are able to find that like gate in which people understand each other. um, then they kind of turn around, and you are able to be actually a leader into the healing phase of all your family members. And for those that understand and that want to follow you, but mainly that's, yeah, my end goal and the beauty of my work is to actually see family reconnect after having cut ties, and be in, appropriate terms, if not good terms.
I love that so, so much. And I think one important like message that we're trying to tell here is that cutting ties with your family does not mean forever. And I think a lot of people have that thought in mind, like, oh, like, does that mean I have to like run away and to not speak to my parents for like 10, 20 years? No. And it's so beautiful that your end goal is to see families reconnect, because I personally also very strongly believe, and also through my own personal experience, is that when you yourself is at a higher and like more secure place with like self-love and a higher self-esteem, people see you differently, and you talk differently, like you communicate differently, and that's just so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that you pointed it out. That's exactly that. What I usually deal with is like clients when they come to see me, that they're desperate. It's like save me, save me from this mess. But it's like it's so triggering, right? To see your whole world fall apart, and to have to break it off, like really to leave, and possibly get mad at, or fight your way through. Like that's the weird thing that most of my clients just don't want to see. And some of them have done the steps and have left and want to reconnect. But indeed, like in that very triggered moment, it's like your whole world is like it's gone. Like I'm just never going to talk to them again, and that's it, even more heartbreaking. And so I do make a point to remind people that, in that moment, we just don't understand the world like the right way, because we're so like heightened in our emotions. But indeed, it's not forever. Like for some, it may be because, when there is like difficult situation, like, trauma of any kind, or addictions, or really like family members that are unable to learn themselves, right? Like to come back to a place where they can understand, um, forgive or like, do better, that may be forever. But I do believe that, the people that I work with, and most people that I want, to hear this message, is that we are meant to break the cycle, to like change our habits, and teach our family how to, love in a different way.
Yeah. Oh wow. And actually, I'm curious about, so you've mentioned the very early part of being triggered, and the moment when everything happened and you just want to leave, you just want to like do something about it. So what about the middle process? And I guess like that's when you as a coach support your clients, because having been through like a lot of family drama, I think the middle part of self-healing is so tough. And especially when you're alone, first of all, like that you want to be away from the drama first. And yeah, even that loneliness can really kill you. So yeah, how do you have any tips or advice for people like who are listening that are wanting to heal, but that healing process can be so terrifying. Like it's not just the loneliness, but also going into an unknown, going into uncertainty, and just like having to bear so much, yeah, like guilt, responsibility, all these thoughts in your head. Like, do you have any tips?
Yeah, yeah, and what I can say that after that very triggered moment, you are pretty much in survival mode, right? So like you have a place to go and possibly a job to, continue to have, and your whole life will just like come right back down to you, and there may be some kind of time where you are just gonna, you know, eat, sleep, work. Like that's it, because you cannot handle more, right? And then there will be that moment where the hard emotions and the heartbreak will kind of like lessen and let you process what's going on and what has happened and where you are at. And that's where the loneliness and like the importance of what you've done will just like come right back at you, and possibly, create panic attacks or like stuff like that, because it's been big. And so what I've noticed is that at that point for myself, I went to therapy. And because I'm like, I need to find a way to like reconnect as soon as I can, but I had that like torn feeling inside of me of like, I don't want to, like, because they will never understand. So it's like, how do I handle this? And through all the years that because it took me 7 years, like, or let's say 5. But for the very first year, I was so lost, I didn't even know who to turn to. And so I've done a lot of therapy, but after a few years, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, because, it would like teach me how to understand what has happened, and like see the relationships in between people. But I would actually walk away with even more guilt, because I'm like, oh, I'm doing a terrible thing. I'm not loving them enough. And then after that, that's when I learned coaching. And I think that's also the main message of today, is that there is some, limitation to the tools around us. And I deeply believe that actually the path I've created is somewhat unique, because so far you either have like um therapy or like relationship coaching, but you don't have that like really family oriented and like self oriented version of like, I see you, you understand, it's not your fault, you didn't do anything wrong, and we're gonna lead you somewhere. It's like there is like that cycle breaking part is not everywhere out there. And so I really believe in what I've created. Surprise. But the tips I can give, as you asked, for people in the middle that may not exactly know what to do, may youth therapy or other type of coaching and may not like know anything like I offer, um, very much what I would advise is, or what I would suggest is really following your heart, like connecting to your heart. And that can be when you walk in nature. That can be with a nice cup of tea in front of a fire. That can be at the lake, or at the beach. Like whenever you can quiet your mind and really connect to your heart. Put your hands on your heart and ask it, what does it need? What do you need to really keep that peace going, right? And so once you are at peace, the next thing is asking, what do you need in your relationship with your family? Not from them, but how do you need to show up with them? How would you like to show up? And a lot of us will suffer from that abandonment and rejection wound, right? And it's like, so in the end, it's about really, bringing that self-love, bringing that, like, that peace, that love, that comfort. Um, and it may take years, but when we comes together, I try to make it happen much faster. But it may take years to refill that cup that has never been filled before, because you have always been trained to like give away your love, and you have never been taught how to fill up your cup. And to me, I remember a very specific moment where I'm like, um, I was connecting with myself, and there is that concept of inner child. So like that version that has been abandoned throughout all these years, and I was really, really, really scared and upset when I left, and when I was on my own. And that was that part of me that really needed the most love. And to me, I felt that it was a bottomless pit. It's like you would never have enough love. I never thought I could ever fill up my cup. But with perseverance and keeping on trusting that your heart knows best, and that you know how to take care of yourself. So it's keeping on doing that until you can love someone without any expectation. You can give away without any expectation, or without denying your needs. And then that's when we also bring in that, like, purpose. And so, reading that book I read, that's also a nice thing about like finding your purpose. There is also the ikigai principle in the Japanese culture. That's similar. That could help. To me, it didn't really work out. The Dharma worked out much better than ikigai, but either or, like knowing why you are here. Because for me, and for a lot of people that I've talked to, there is also that part of like you don't even like want to be here anymore, because it's like, why am I supposed to go through this pain? It's like there is no good lessons in there, right? And so really, as I mentioned already, right, learning that you may be here to break the cycle and to teach another way of relating to your family, to your parents. That's the best. But there may be something else in there, and so inquiring about that will lead you to go through. And if it's like by little period of therapy just to like help one thing, or another type of coaching, or coming to work with me, in the end, I believe that that's going to make a difference. That's what's going to make a difference. Is that answering the question?
Wow, the whole time you were sharing, I got so much goosebumps just feeling like just feeling your energy and just feeling the effects of the words that you're saying, because I really do agree with you that a lot of the times your heart knows best, and you really have to fill your cup first to even realize what is going on, to because I always tell people that we have this little voice inside our heart, in our guts as well, but they our silence. Like, give it like food. It's like another person inside of you, and you need to like nurture it by really like doing self-care things like going into nature, drinking enough water, like healthy things. And then you will slowly start to be able to have that gut voice, to really direct you, to tell you what you need, what you lack, and show you the direction, because we have all the answers within ourselves.
Yes, yes. And it brings to mind that that's why I use Ayurveda. For my clients that are inclined and interested to use it, we actually help you reconnect with your body and know what to learn. And I remember that my biggest issue was to like understand which signal was a real signal. Because I have a tendency of being very anxious, and I show it through anxiety. There is some people that I've coached that will show it through avoidance, right? They will just step back and like completely deny what they need. But either or, it's all related to like a need that hasn't been answered to. And so I like using Ayurveda to like give a little like map. So there is two maps. There is like the body map with like the lifestyle and diet recommendation to really give the right food to your body and your mind. And then there is the life purpose map that is like, wait a minute, like you are not working the right way. And that helps us like direct our energy. And so, all in all, what I want to say is that there is that big part of learning what to listen to, because it's not easy. And interestingly enough, I was an engineer before all of this.
Wait, sorry, go back again. You were an engineer before all of this.
Yes, in France I was an engineer, and then I left that behind because I didn't find that I had enough um results into the saving the world kind of thing. So I decided that I would become the engineer of the mind and body for people to really know themselves and become their best version. And so that's technically my mission. And there is a big part about really learning and um pretty much deciphering, like understanding really what your body and your minds are telling you. Because through anxiety, you get like so much signals that you're like, I don't, I'm gonna do this, and then you fail because it was not exactly right, and then because you imagine certain things, so then you try something, and then through failures and failures and failures, you just stop, and you are like, I'm never gonna know myself, and the whole point is to know that you can, and to really learn how to give a voice to what has been silenced, as you were saying, and understand, if it's a brain thing, if it's a heart thing, if it's a gut thing. And if it's it's just so fun. And so that's definitely something we work on to build that confidence and trust in yourself, because when you are alone and left alone and have nobody to really turn to, that's the worst time ever of like, what am I supposed to do? And a lot of people also like to process by talking, right? And when you have lost your friends, or when you can't talk to your friends because it was family friends, it's really hard. And that's also why I'm very passionate about what I do, because uh, it's a very isolating situation, right? And like, I even like specifically um, work with adult daughters, and there is a thing about adults, is that everything think that you should have it figured out. And so when you are at work and like your whole family has exploded and you have like lost everything you've known, it's really hard to go to work and say, hey, I've actually lost myself over the weekend. And like people are going to turn to you and they're like, what? What do you mean? And a lot of people don't understand how visceral also that need is to like really take care of yourself and get rid of the rest. And so in that isolation, I really want to be, that space where people can come to and feel heard and seen, and know that they don't have it, they don't need to have it figured out, because that's where they are at right now. No discussion. It's like, it's gonna be, we're gonna do it, it's gonna be fine.
This is all just a process and journey of life that we learn to heal, we learn to work it through, and it'll eventually be like what you said at the beginning, like, we will reconnect, we'll reunite, we will find ourselves, find our purpose. And I mean, I think that's like the end goal for everyone, to have that love and security within themselves. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing everything. This is so, so, so great.
You are welcome.
Before we finish, there's one last question that I ask everyone, is that if you can share one thing that you love about yourself.
Yeah, so I actually brainstormed on this today, getting ready. And so I would say that, the one thing that I love about myself is having learned to have my own back, which was something that I actually had strong feeling against. I thought that it was not a right thing to do, but there is so much like love in my life that I'm able to just like protect myself and like really be my very own self. And by having done that, I'm able, as you were saying too earlier, that to communicate my boundaries much better, and so people look at me much differently, and actually the love that is given to me is 10 times better than it was ever before. And so yeah, having my own back, loving myself, um and really bringing that love and healing back to the world. So that's something I never thought I was meant to be. And I'm so glad that, somehow I was forced to do that, because I'm very proud of, who I am today, and I cannot wait. Like, it makes me so happy to know that, many other people can do that too.
Oh, wow. I'm so happy for you. Just like hearing that, and just knowing that, just from what you shared just now, I feel like so many people can benefit from it, because so many of us adult daughters, we are still figuring it out, and it's okay to continue this journey and to not know anything about like how to basically, we learn and we unlearn and we relearn. And yeah, sometimes things can explode over a weekend and we still have to go to work on Monday, and it's okay, because this is just a process.
Yeah, yeah. And there is one thing that I often forget to mention, but that is just coming back to mind, is that, in our late 20s, 30s, there is also that pressure for women to create families, right? And when your family has exploded, you are like, I'm never gonna do this. Like, this is not good. And like, there is a big, again, like, torn feelings about having children, and how are you going to do that, and how are you not going to repeat patterns. And so I want one other message to go through, which is that this work of healing, learning, unlearning, relearning, all of this does not happen overnight, right? And a lot of us sometimes feel that time is passing and that we may be sacrificing years, and then, resentment start to build up against our family, because it's like they have messed us up, and now I'm losing all this time. Like, that's not right. But technically speaking, as soon as you start, um all of that can, get healed, and you can learn things so that you can become also a beautiful mother, that has broken the cycle and that is not repeating that. So I just wanting to put that out there for the women that think of it, because it is a big motivator usually to start to do the work. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. This is possible. And so yeah, having your own back and learning all of that, doing the practices, and really changing your way of seeing the world and thinking of yourself, and relating to people. This is beautiful to me.
Oh, wow. All of that is just so like I just resonate so much, and just knowing that at the end of the day you will be the person to break the cycle for generations like ahead of you, and just being that light bearer to your family. That's just like to another level. Like I cannot even describe my feelings.
Well, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today. And before we go, can you share with the audience your Instagram, your website, if you have one? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So my Instagram is life designed by you underscore with Marianne. And you can find all of that on my website, which is lifedesignedbyyou.ca. And I'm guessing it may be in the show notes, or later you may have it written. But definitely, yeah, come follow me to learn more. And if anything has you know resonated with you, I'm here for you. And I'm very grateful for this time. Yeah, thank you.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Definitely. Thank you so very much. And yeah.